Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. Today is a solo episode, and I have a topic I want to dive into, and that is why you aren't happy with your look as you lose weight. Are you not happy with your look as you diet it down? You're definitely not alone. This is something that I have dealt with myself, and I have a lot of people reach out to me with this exact problem, right? It's like you're dropping weight, but you just don't feel like your look is better. You just always want to keep losing a little bit more. Yeah, you just want to keep losing more weight, or again, you get to a certain weight, you're like, man, I just don't look as good as I thought I was going to look in this. And so what I want to do is I want to go over some reasons why you may feel this way. And then my hope here is that you either one, improve what you are currently doing, or two, trust the process and stay patient. And so three things I commonly see with clients who have done fat loss phases on their own before working with me are one, they don't lose weight as quickly in their previous fat loss phases, but notice they look better. So again, it's, hey, from a weight perspective, they're a little upset that maybe things aren't trending down as quickly, but they notice they look better in that process. Again, that's a good sign, right? Two, they don't feel as crappy in their fat loss diets with me as they did previously. Again, maybe on the way down, it's, oh man, they just felt like super lethargic, no energy. They just didn't feel good, super hungry. So again, we see an improvement there with that. And then three, they have a much easier time maintaining their progress following a fat loss diet. Again, people will lose weight, but then when they're done, they usually see things rebound. If you could do all three of these things, I'm sure that would be something that you would be super thrilled with, right? Not only one, you don't have to maybe lose as much weight as you think, and you're also looking better in that process. You also don't feel as crappy, and you just have a much easier time afterwards. And again, much of it is going to come down to the things that I'm going to mention today. Let's talk about them. Why you aren't happy with your look as you lose weight. Number one is you're dropping weight too quickly. So when you drop weight too fast, you think more than like 1% of your body weight per week over multiple weeks. And we're not talking about the initial kind of water weight fluctuations that are going to happen. But when you start to lose this much, this quickly, your body can start to use muscle potentially as some of the weight it's going to lose, right? And this can leave you looking quote unquote less full and less muscular. You're obviously going to lose muscle. You're going to look less muscular. So again, dropping weight too quickly can be something that can hurt you. And in the short term, I'll see people do this for 4 to 6 weeks, but then they can't stick to it long term. And then that's when the weight comes back on. So it's like they lost some muscle in that process, and they also had a tough time maintaining that afterwards because they were so hungry. But the big thing here is if you go any faster than 1% of body weight per week, you're going to put yourself at a higher risk of lean body mass loss. Now, one thing I'll say on this, like I just said, is the likelihood of somebody sticking to this over extended periods of time is tough to do. So this is definitely something that can happen, especially like I said, in those like kind of 4 to 6 week really crash diets. You can see this happen, but anything longer than that, I think it's very challenging for people to stick to this. But there are people who are really good at just sticking, like that have that willpower to do something for say 8 to 16 weeks. They'll lose say 1% of their body weight per week. And then again, they'll lose muscle in the process, and then they can't stick to it past that. They don't know what to do. And that's where they see weight come back on, and they gain all body fat back. Those would be the scenarios where I would be most concerned about this. But again, I think this comes down to people's expectations of what they need to lose, right? So for clients, we aim for 0.25 to 0.75% of body weight loss per week. And for some people, when you fall on that lower end, they're upset that they're not losing weight as quickly, but they don't feel as bad in the process, and they're maintaining and potentially building muscle in that process. So their look is better, right? So I think it's expectations. And I also think that there are certain situations here where, again, this might not be the case for everybody because it is just really challenging. But if you are somebody that you lose 4 to 6 pounds, or you lose a good amount of weight for 4 to 6 weeks at a time, then you fall off. Or again, maybe you're somebody who's lost it for say 8 to 16 weeks, 1%, and then you saw it all come back on. Again, you might be somebody who's just trying to drop it too quickly, and we need to maybe dial back a little bit so that way we can feel better in the process and maintain and potentially build the body mass in the process, which is going to improve your look. Really, the biggest thing here is this kind of quicker weight loss is not going to be great from a lean body mass standpoint, which is going to impact your look on the way down. So you're going to have that smaller look, but not necessarily more defined look. Number two, you don't lift or you don't lift like you did when trying to build muscle. So either you rely on cardio during your fat loss phases and don't lift, or you lift, but you change how you lift to make it more like quote unquote fat burning, right? Both of these can lead to muscle loss and a decrease in your overall look as you drop weight. So again, if you're somebody who's, I'm just trying to lose fat, I'm not going to lift weights now, and you just do cardio, that's not going to be great from a lean body mass perspective, right? Or again, maybe you are still lifting weights, but it's like more just super circuit based style, really no progressive overload. It's all about just like burning as many calories. Again, those are going to be two things that can impact your body's ability to build and maintain muscle in that process. And again, that combined with a energy deficit, seeing your weight trend down, is likely going to lead to some muscle loss in that process. So again, when we lose muscle, we know that's going to impact our look. So again, that's reason number two. Number three, you don't eat enough protein. For people who have been in the fitness game for a while, you probably eat enough protein, right? I'm not too worried about you. But for those of you who are just like getting into macros, you have a decent understanding, and or maybe you just focus on like calories, you may not eat enough protein while on a fat loss diet. Protein is crucial for preserving muscle mass as you drop body fat. Without enough of it, you risk losing muscle. And also it's great from a satiety standpoint as well too. It can help keep you feeling full and satiated. So then that way you're more likely to stick to your energy deficit. So a good rule of thumb while fat loss dieting is to aim for about 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. That's just a simple, easy way to go about it. But again, we want to make sure we're eating enough protein. And this is especially true during weight loss and the leaner you get. So we want to make sure we're getting enough protein. Just protein by itself, it's probably going to help offset some muscle loss, but if you're not weight training in that process, that's going to be something that's going to impact you. So maybe it's I eat enough protein and I do cardio, that should be enough, right? Again, you still want to make sure you lift weights in that process because that's really going to be the big thing that is going to have the biggest fact. It's going to play the biggest role in terms of if you maintain or lose or build muscle. Number four, poor sleep. Can't stress this enough. A study found that people on a low calorie diet lose the same amount of weight, regardless of whether they sleep 8.5 or 5.5 hours a night. However, those who slept 5.5 hours per night lost more weight via muscle. And again, so now we're losing muscle, right? So this is the worst look as you drop weight. So again, we want to make sure we're prioritizing sleep during your fat loss phases. So if you're someone who's lost weight in the past, and again, maybe you didn't really focus on sleep, it was just, hey, I'm just going to focus on nutrition, really pushing my training, but sleep was not great. That's going to be something that's going to impact your look and muscle maintenance gain, and that's going to impact your look. Plus, poor sleep is also going to make it harder to actually stick to a calorie deficit because we're going to be hungrier and probably have worse decision making. Willpower is going to be lower, motivation is going to be lower, and all these things combined make it very challenging to stick to that. Again, there's the mental side of it with the poor sleep, but also the physical side of things from a muscle gain standpoint as well too, and muscle loss standpoint. Number five, you haven't built as much muscle as dropped enough body fat. Again, we could have all these things be going on where you need to go a little bit slower, you need to eat a little bit more protein, you need to lift weights, all these things, but there is a time component to this to where if you just started doing this, like you have to have reasonable expectations here. So again, you may just not have built as much muscle as you thought you did, or just not have as much muscle as you thought, and or you just haven't dropped enough body fat yet. Sometimes you aren't happy with your look as you diet down because you simply haven't spent enough time building muscle. This doesn't mean you need to gain a ton of weight either. This doesn't mean you need to gain a ton of weight, but you either need to improve your hypertrophy training, right? So you're training to build muscle. We need to make sure we improve that. And, or you need to spend more time consuming enough calories. So this is maintenance calories or higher. And this is what you need, right? So this could be part of the piece here is you just need to spend a little bit more time building and maintaining muscle. You need to be in a maintenance or a small surplus. You just haven't had enough time in that phase to really build as much muscle as you think, right? Or you may just have more body fat than you think, and you just haven't lost enough body fat yet to have the look you want. So you need to be patient. This is another thing I see where it's, hey, I lost 15 pounds. I feel like I should be lean, or why is my midsection? It's like you still need to drop more body fat, unfortunately, right? I think we tend to overestimate how much muscle we have, and we tend to underestimate how much body fat we have and how much body fat we need to lose to get the leanness that we want. And I bring this up because, again, this is a patience thing, but also just an expectation thing of thinking that, again, you spend 6 weeks in a deficit and you should be super lean, right? Again, it just doesn't happen like that. But also, again, many people will think they're doing things wrong. They just have a little bit more body fat than they think. I guess another thing you could add here too would be like, for some people, their body deposits body fat in different areas, and sometimes that can mask how lean you look, right? Some people, it's like it's very evenly spread throughout your body. For some people, it's maybe their body distributes body fat a little bit more around the hips and butt, maybe around the midsection, maybe a little bit more around the limbs. Again, there's going to be a genetic component to this. But if you don't have abs, or again, you are lost 15 pounds and you still feel like you need to lose more, again, it could just be you need to drop a little bit more body fat. Or again, it could be a combo of both. It could be, hey, you need to continue to do a little bit of both. And this is where my recomp kind of methods come in, where it's like, hey, we need to make sure we're going to focus on adding/maintaining muscle and then get you in a small deficit. And that's going to be a great way to do both at the same time. But at some point, you may need to go to a more like a periodized approach where you focus more time on one or the other. This would be a great time to plug my nutrition periodization masterclass. I go into this extensively, and my body recomp masterclass would be super helpful as here well too. Number six, you're overly focused on scale weight. So in order to drop body fat, a good sign is seeing your scale weight drop over weeks. However, this doesn't tell you everything that's going on. If it's not paired with some of the things in this post, you may be risking muscle loss. Or in certain situations, you could be adding muscle while dropping body fat, which may not show up on the scale. Okay. So again, we need to take that into consideration. We also want to look at things like measurements, progress pics, how your clothes are fitting, how you feel. Client actually just this morning sent me a message about, hey, weight's not really moving much, but I'm feeling leaner. People are commenting. My delts are showing a little bit more. Yeah, there's definitely some fat loss going on, right? At that point, all those things that you told me indicate that's going on. Maybe the scale weight's just lagging behind a little bit. So again, we need to make sure we're looking at more than just scale weight here, because again, sometimes that's going to mask some fat loss. Number 7, you're just depleted, right? In order to drop body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. When you're in a calorie deficit, glycogen stores get used up and your muscles can look flat because glycogen helps them hold water. So without enough water and glycogen, muscles just don't have that kind of same pump and like fullness feeling, right? That's the other thing here is this was something for me that, especially in the beginning of a fat loss phase, when you first, like maybe you just got done with the building phase, you first get into a fat loss phase, it's like you're in this period where you're eating less calories, so maybe you're a little bit more depleted, but you haven't really necessarily lost a ton of body fat yet. So you just feel like a less pumped, like just a little bit higher body fat look, right? And so it's just going to take some time to lose some body fat. That's like the worst part of fat loss dieting. It's the best because you feel your best because you're at the beginning of it, but you look your worst and you're like doing the things to drop weight. So if you can stick through that period of time and get through that, you start to notice like physical changes week over week after that. But you need to get through that initial like 3 to 5 weeks, I would say. But 2 things here. One, refeed days / diet breaks can help fill you back up, help you give you that kind of nice full look from time to time. And then 2, you might have to wait until you're done with the fat loss phase to look quote unquote fuller again. Some people just like that more kind of full look, but some people like that depleted, like super lean look, right? So it just also depends on the person here. But hopefully this gave you some insight into why you aren't happy with your look as you lose weight. These are all things I'll work on with clients. Hopefully at this point now, you notice, hey, I either need to improve what I'm doing or I need to just trust the process and continue to stay patient here. Whether that's, hey, I need to lose a little bit more body fat, I need to build a little bit more muscle, or, hey, I could probably focus a little bit more on training to build muscle. I can maybe focus a little bit more on sleep, right? I can maybe focus a little bit more on adding in things besides just the scale weight. Because I do think when you just focus on scale weight, that is going to be something that can potentially lead to you having a worse look down the line. For example, again, over time, we want to see your weight trend down. But as you get leaner, I think you're going to notice less change in. I think that's where like maybe we need to decouple like your scale weight and getting lean. And what I see happen a lot of times is people still try to see that like same trajectory downwards from a scale weight perspective. And that's like the only thing they're focused on. And that I do think can hurt your just kind of body composition, how your body looks. So that would be something to look out for there. But that goes to point number 6 of being overly focused on the scale. Again, I had a client who he got down to 80, like 78 to 80 kilograms. And he's like, all right, in 2 weeks, I want to be to 78. And I'm like, I really want you to be careful here with trying to push a certain weight at this point in time. Like you need to just keep doing the thing, stay adherent, and that weight's going to trend where it is. If you just do things to manipulate that weight, that's where I think you're going to hurt your overall body composition and lean body mass. So we want to be careful with that. So hopefully this episode was helpful. If you found it helpful, if you could leave a rating and review, and that will help more people find this information. If you haven't yet, give me a follow on Instagram, Jeff. And I have my free masterclass on body recomp. The link to that is in the show notes. I also have my free masterclass on nutrition periodization, and that also is in the show notes. And then lastly, if you have tried to run multiple fat loss phases and maybe you're running into this where you're just not liking the way you look, then my free 30-minute strategy calls for you, and we can dive into what you've been doing and how we can improve those things. But that's it for this episode, and I will chat with you next time.